When most people hear about participation in the theatre, they're thinking of the horror of participation. People on stage who know how the thing's going to happen or what's supposed to happen, and they ask for one person to come up. Everybody else is safe. Nobody else is participating on that level, and there's this massive imbalance of a power dynamic. With the thing, there's no one just watching. Essentially, you're all risking the thing together. Nobody knows what's coming next. That was the idea, simply to kind of take out the leader and really just have the participants participating on the same level.
Having people in the room ready to give credit to something which they know is fiction or is not real yet, that readiness is something which is really precious.
The 36 people who participated, I'm curious what intrigued you enough to sign up for a 16-hour workshop?
When I saw the word thing, my curiosity just went up to the ceiling.
I came from Colorado. It just happened that there was an ad for the thing there.
These two artists who were, creating some sort of experience.
After reading a really lengthy description, I still didn't really know what it was about. So I thought, this is my kind of thing.
Describing the thing to people, I said a lot of, I don't know.
The John Carpenter movie, The Thing.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I did see. I have culture. Yeah.
We didn't talk about it.
To me, the thing is past experience in one's life or in society as a whole.
Some kind of social change that is inclusive, beautiful, and disruptive.
It's really about caring about others, like how other people react to your action.
Situations in society that we want to see and feel that is injustice.
Like, how do you want to get your message across?
Taking small steps to hopefully lead to larger steps in the future.
As an individual, and also you can expand that into society and look within society and see what's going on, and we want to change that narrative. That's the thing.
It started with a very open brief for 11 or 12 people in a room. Started with a vial of instructions and a suitcase. Within the first day, we were looking at past examples that may or may not be the thing. By the next week, we learned a strategy to kind of hone in what the thing could be. The week after that, we mocked it up and we tested it and we went out into the world and tried to figure out what this thing could possibly be by interacting or not interacting with our surroundings. And then in the final week, we summarized everything together and put in a pledge to do this thing in the future.
Candidly, I haven't done my thing yet, but it lives in me, and that's a change that's important to reflect in this project as well.
To dwell in a space where there's not a clear-cut answer. I think that is what the thing is for me, is really inviting more of that into your life and inviting other people to share that with you.
It's amazing so far, even just to hear what the thing is, because it's trying to sort of do all this stuff at the same time. What I'm really interested in is this feeling of dread that I think most people have when confronted with the idea of doing something that they wouldn't normally do, or that goes beyond some kind of socially accepted boundary. We hope, I think, that the thing does convert that feeling of dread into a kind of adrenaline that you start to miss when you don't get it.
The first week that we had, where we watched all these videos and read things together, that really helped envision that.
Just by seeing those examples, talking to each other, listening to each other's experiences, made me more aware of the potential for growth in me.
First, I would like to say thank you and congratulate you, because we're asking people to go out there, but we're staying very safe somehow. When you're an artist, you do a lot of things, but basically you do it in a very protected environment. You're doing it on stage, you're doing it in a gallery. For that reason, I'm always giving a very hard time to the audience. They can never sit back. There's always microphones around, they have to talk, they have to interact. If they don't do anything, the piece does not happen. I'm always looking for this moment of transformation, this kind of tipping point that one can create, letting this idea of a show fall.
For many years, I've been making work with instructions to unrehearsed guest performers. And then after a while, I started making work for the audience, and I made a piece called Etiquette, which came here 10 years ago in Veselka Cafe in the East Village. The headphones tell you what to say to each other. So you're sitting in a cafe that's functioning as normal, having a conversation fed to you. It's a piece actually about the problem of language and having to choose your words. Just before making the workshop, I had made a piece called Someone Else for the 50th anniversary of a theatre in Brussels. Essentially, a suggestion to two people at a time to think about going out into the city and speaking to somebody who they would not normally speak with. So I made this piece, and Christophe was basically saying, wouldn't it be nice to create a workshop where people could decide for themselves what that thing is? And we ended up going to do a workshop in Hong Kong called Workshopping the Automatic Workshop. And so that was where some of the ideas really started taking root.
When I was in Whole Foods and like testing my boundaries of what's like socially acceptable in Whole Foods, or in like a shared dining area. And I remember after that experience, so vividly after that, being like, wow, no one said anything. Like, no, they looked at me funny, but no one said a single word. And I was like, I could literally do whatever I want in this dining area in Whole Foods, and no one's gonna say anything.
It should be something really kind of immediately available and simple like that. Actually, the instruction was always, do something you've never done before. P.S. Don't be late.
We were shown images and pieces of history of people breaking social norms, but at such costs and with such motivation. Looking at the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square, I'm thinking like, he has a lot more going into that than I do going into a bank with this project.
The bank action, when I first heard about it in Warsaw, I totally didn't get it. But I went along. Agnieszka Kurant, who was the author of this bank idea, very kindly allowed us to include that within the thing. And sitting there, like with 30 other people, and suddenly there's the silence and the pings. Like with every ping, the room just kind of went up a notch in terms of tension.
You had to actually speak to a person to use a computer to get a number. So we felt like we would be really obvious that we were the people causing the problem, and that the only people who cause problems in banks are robbing them.
Yeah, you're blocking a banking system. Time is money, for sure, in a place like that. The sense also of the system like crying out for your participation. If anyone's read Bartleby the Scrivener, it's like it's a really beautiful little reference going on there to this 100-year-old tale of sudden, inexplicable non-participation that bamboozles completely the people working in the bank. And she was very, very clear about that being an inspiration at the time. She made it around the time of the banking crisis.
It creates a nice precedent for starting to deal with carrying out an action in the public sphere, because there is no perfect action you can do. Anything you'll do, you'll find resistance. You'll find people who don't agree with it. So you have to gear up also for having to confront people who don't agree with you. You are being the sand in the machine, and what if the machine is right?
The third episode, in the cafes, reflecting on potential choices that we could make, really helps to mitigate that risk. The dialogue goes, think of something that you could do right now that would be disruptive for others, but not really disruptive for you. It says, like, think about it. Do not do that thing. And I think that helped to be like, okay, it's not like, there's like a comfort zone, and then there's like a bigger zone around that.
And I heard the instruction, but don't do it. And I was like, well, what's too late? I just did it, right?
Like, dramaturgically, the way we kind of planned it, you've had the whole first day with these kind of examples. People come having, stood on one leg in the subway. I've never done that before. Like, okay. And sure enough, it doesn't really kind of stand up to all the different criteria. The guy who nails his scrotum to the red square, we were very critical of it. And we placed it there really like so that if necessary, people could maybe kind of unpack that and find those contradictions.
The barrier of socially acceptable, I was like, that's a wavy barrier because look at this. And then, but I mean, eventually I did fold back on that thought and think, and also I could have been arrested, so.
everything that's going on behind the scenes is sort of happening like in your own head psychologically.
Is there something offensive about this? Is it not? Does it make sense? Like, what about the action? What about the text? What about the timing? Like, we had all of these thoughts sort of unpacking this one thing.
One aspect of it was that walking back, and like the way you directed us to keep dropping deeper into the issue, and this tension between communion and agency, something about that, like whether it's we don't want immigrants or we're in the middle of the country and nobody even cares.
Towards the end of the workshop, I felt that my attention has really turned away from myself and turned onto others.
Part of the thing is that there doesn't have to be a change socially or globally. That I've certainly noticed that the thing changed me.
That whole statement about act as if you're already free, like there's something, I even get very moved by that. And there's something about becoming and being and enacting the world that you want to be having going on. And it's almost like, come on into this with me.